Hello, fellow Trekkies. My name is George, also known as Chooch99. I'm in Augusta, Maine. I'm in a graveyard, and I'm going to give you a review of the newest episode of Star Trek Discovery. For those who don't know me, I do an audio show called Star Trek Starfinder. I produce. It's an audio drama. It's been out there for a little while. And I also produce a show called Super Geeks, which is a podcast where me and a few good hosts, we haven't done an episode in a while, but we're going to, have been talking about all the stuff that we love. Star Trek, in this case Orville's, not this case, but Orville's one of the shows that is on the agenda. All the movies out there, the CW shows, so forth, etc., etc. You get the idea. So I had a little bit of time, and I decided to do a live broadcast of my personal quick thoughts from last night's episode of Star Trek Discovery, which is called Episode 7, Something to Make the Sane Man Go Mad. Okay, so I can't remember the exact title, but Something to Make the Sane Man Go Mad. You get the idea, but people will know what I'm talking about. Anyways, the episode picks up from a few episodes before, with the return of Harry Mudd, who's a Star Trek original series character who's sort of a con man. He was always sort of like, if you ever watched Xena and Hercules, he was like Autolycus. He was like the thief with the heart of gold kind of guy. And this is part of my problem as I review this episode. Harry Mudd returns. He has vengeance on his mind against Captain Lorca of the Discovery. He wants to basically get back at him for leaving him with the Klingons on the ship from a few episodes prior, where he was captured and cellmates with Harry Mudd. We're talking about the captain. And Ash Tyler, the new character, who also was introduced in that episode, was this new character. And Harry Mudd comes into this episode with a time loop story where he somehow acquired like a space whale thing that's on the endangered species list, and so he's confident that he can somehow trick Discovery into stopping to grab it and be hiding inside it with some kind of Andorian helmet, because he got the antennas on the helmet, which implies it was made for Andorians. I thought that was cute. Or a species very similar to them, but I have a feeling they were meant to be Andorians. There was a lot of little Easter eggs in this episode. They mentioned Betazed, and that he tried to rob a bank there, which they've never canon-wise said when the Federation met the Betazoids, so that's fine with me, as far as that part. But now they've canonized that they are familiar with the Betazoids, whatever, in the time of TOS, which is, they've never said that they weren't, so that's fine. It's not really a retcon, because they never said they weren't. A retcon is when you undo something and redo it. So they never actually said when they met them. Same with the Trill. Okay, although they had to have been familiar with the Trill, that's another story, because of Curzon and so forth. So in this episode, what I liked about it, there's a few things I didn't like, but mostly I loved the episode. At first, I wasn't liking the portrayal that Rainn Wilson was doing of Harry Mudd, because he was making him a little too aggressive, a little too evil. He always used to come across as not an anti-hero at all. I want to say he will only go so far type thief, con man. Some people have argued with me on Facebook that he did human trafficking for slaves and so forth, and he had some issues, and that maybe they didn't portray it as viciously as they would have back in the 60s. So that's fair. But I always looked at Harry Mudd as that swashbuckling not swashbuckling, but kind of charismatic con man who, darn it, you caught me again, Kirk. One of those guys. And yeah, he did some things that were scrupulous, but he never murdered people. I mean, the argument I've been hearing is this is a new, darker version. This is Harry Mudd 10 years before we met him in the original series. Now, unless Stella changed him, I'm sorry, but he was happily and he was having fun murdering the captain in so many different ways, vaporizing him, like doing things to him that, spacing him And by the way, those site-to-site transporter technology on Discovery is 10 times better than it was even on Next Generation. Just saying. Yeah, so somehow Harry Mudd acquired a space whale and waited around with a space helmet under the assumption that Discovery was going to pop up, and he had it just planned right, which is kind of a leap, but I won't give them too much flack for that. What I will give them flack for is that at the end of the episode, because there's a lot of good things that happen in the episode too that I liked. Character development. Alright, I'll get to the bad part in a minute. I'll tell you what I do like. I liked everything else going on besides the Harry Mudd. My problem with their version of Harry Mudd and what happened at the end and how they forgive him. I like Michael Burnham a lot. She's the main character. She's supposed to be the character you identify with. She's supposed to be the character you want to... the lens focuses on throughout this story. And they didn't shy away from quickly... Instead of dragging it out like a lot of shows would have done, they knew the audience would pick up on her and Ash Tyler's chemistry, or forced chemistry, but the fact that they are meant to have some sort of a romance, that's picked up on very quickly, and they use the time loop thing very effectively to explore that, and I like that a lot. I like the fact that they could do that in a realistic way, because they didn't make it like too dragged out, because even by the end, the will they won't they thing that most TV shows do, obviously they both want to, and obviously will they, obviously that's going to happen, and everybody knew it, but it's the way that producers decided to play with that trope and sort of reverse your expectations. So instead of dragging out that will they won't they, it's more like they said, yes, they're definitely going to, in the very next episode after they met, and they decided, hey, here's 10 different ways they can get things moving on that because of a time loop. Very clever. I liked it. It also made Michael Burnham more interesting. I mean, I have been interested in a human who's raised by Vulcans, and Vulcans obviously control their emotions, and they also have Pon farr once every 7 years. It doesn't mean they don't have relations. This is an argument that's been going on for a long time, but they do have relations outside of Pon farr. So, because Tuvok's kids were not 7 years apart, just saying. That's just proof right there. And Michael Burnham was raised by Vulcans. So, she said this is the first time she's never been in love. That was the secret she told I forget. Spore Guy. Let's just call him Spore Guy because I forget how to pronounce his name. Good character, by the way, but I just can't remember how to pronounce his name. Stippet. You know what I'm saying. I'm going to call him Spore Guy just because I can't remember and I don't want to Google it while I'm doing this recording. So what I do like is the fact that she was raised by Vulcans for most of her life. She's trying to be like a Vulcan for most of her life. And yet, there's an implication that we don't know whether she means she's never been in love. Okay. Does that mean she's never had sex? I think she has. I think she's helped a couple of Vulcans through their Pon farr. I'm not trying to be a pervert. I'm just saying, in my opinion, what probably happened was, in her early adult life, I will help you with that. But she didn't feel love because they didn't have a connection, which doesn't actually make a lot of sense because they do that mental mind sort of forced love thing with the mind bond, sort of like Trip and T'Pol. That's another argument. So we don't know the details of her sex life. Her love life, however, she hasn't felt it. And obviously, in my opinion, that is because she was trying to control her emotions because she was trying to be a Vulcan. So maybe she was in love once and she never recognized it because she was suppressing it. See, there's a lot you could do with this. There is a huge amount of exposition and backstory where a character who, whether it's male or female, if they're trying to control their emotions to be like a Vulcan, then they're not going to necessarily know what love is because they're controlling their emotions. So maybe she has had love before. This is an interesting little sort of dynamic about the character that I had not considered when I thought about the idea of a female human being raised by Vulcans, is that they're trying to control their emotions. It's not like, in real life, kids pick up on the affection they see their parents express. It informs their relationships. So imagine you're a human child watching a Vulcan and a human woman. She's going to be confused. Because to her, it's going to be like, you don't show public affection. You don't do the stuff that this party that Tully was throwing implies. So there's so much to explore emotionally for this character and the depth and her nervousness. I mean, she's in her 30s and she's nervous about a guy. That's cute, but it also makes a lot of sense. So I think that's cool from that point of view. You can explore that. As far as the rest of the story, the time loop, they handled it okay. There was some interesting dynamics, and my biggest gripe with the story is Harry Mudd murdering the captain and Tyler over and over, and then at the end of the episode, they just go, oh, we found Stella and her dad. Have him. Take him away. Make him a better man. Even though he just murdered the captain. Now, you got to remember, he murdered the captain, and yes, it was undone by time, but they remembered it. He did the deed. He didn't forget he did it. So you can't do that argument. Well, if you don't remember you did a crime, does it count? So if a mass murderer suddenly gets a head injury, and he forgets he mass murdered, do we just forgive him and send him off with his wife and say keep him out of trouble? Because that's pretty much what happened. They decided to hand him over to Stella, and that they don't even know anything about Stella. We, the audience, do, but the friggin' Federation doesn't. And they're going to send him off and say, it's okay that you killed